Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the TopCyberPro podcast. We are very fortunate to have some time with Mr. James McQuiggan from KnowBe4, and he is just, and again, we're so privileged to have him on because he works with a phenomenal company doing phenomenal work in the world of cybersecurity. And so we're going to get right to it. I'm going to allow Mr. McQuiggan to introduce himself to you that are watching. So, James.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Jim. Really excited to be here with all of you and share whatever information I've got up here collected from 20 years of working over 20 years of IT cybersecurity experience. Right now, I'm a security awareness advocate over at KnowBe4 doing thought leadership. One of my favorite parts is going to conferences and meeting with folks, hearing their war stories and how they're dealing with the ongoing battle of security awareness. I also produce our podcast that we have at KnowBe4 called Security Masterminds. I've been doing that. We're in our third season now, and that's a lot of fun.
Excellent.
Yeah, so just kind of plugging away. Got a side hustle as a college professor as well, which is a lot of fun. Working to grow those security minds for our future generation. Because I said years ago, I want to do this to put myself out of a job. Well, that's not going to happen anytime soon. So I got to get the next group of that next crop of cybersecurity professionals out there so I can retire,
Yeah.
in a number of years. We got a ways to go yet, but yeah, it's kind of the game plan.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to thank you
Sure.
because it is an endless endeavor to do education because, whether it's the landscape constantly changing, emerging technologies, everything is in constant change and evolving constantly. So
Right.
being an educator is one of those, kind of like being a fireman. There's always a fire to put out. There's always something new to learn and also to teach others as they're coming up in the next
Hmm.
generation and generation. So I commend you for one being a professor and an educator. That is a higher calling that not a lot of people take upon. So thank you for that. And of course, thank you for all the awareness campaigns and things that you do with KnowBe4. You mentioned a title and all of that, and I want to kind of come back to that. You mentioned
Sure.
being a thought leader. And a lot of folks, they hear this term, but they don't fully understand that, everything that goes along with being a thought leader, right? It's not just posting stuff on social media and your thoughts at 2 a.m. It's not just that. It's there's a lot more to encompass that. Could you maybe just kind of share with the audience what is kind of like a day in the life of a thought leader would be the better question here.
Um, Drinking lots of coffee in the morning. So, thought leadership, and it was very interesting coming into the role for me, was the concept of looking at the land, like you said, looking at the landscape, looking at trends, looking at what's going on, providing insights based on experience and knowledge that we've gained over the years to be able to provide, a roadmap for folks, provide a different way of looking at things when it comes to, the fact of, the different threats that we're dealing with. When I look at the threats that we have nowadays and I look 5 years ago, there hasn't been a lot that
Completely
changed. If I
different.
go back 10 years, we didn't really have a lot of ransomware 10 years ago. It was just starting to come around because of the cryptocurrency. But we've been dealing with malware and viruses and patching and the user. We've been
Mhm.
dealing with that for 10, 15, 20, 25 years. Anybody with hands on a keyboard, anybody with an email address has, that potential to be able to let cyber criminals into an organization. So, we are constantly dealing with the same issues over and over again. It just kind of gets elevated, it gets ramped up. And so being able to, have that perspective and provide that to people to get them to think about where they are with their cybersecurity programs, with what they're doing in security awareness, identity access management, threat intelligence, threat hunting, looking at all of that, providing some sort of insights of, hey, we talk with hundreds of businesses a year. I know I do at least 100 presentations a year, so I'm always talking with different organizations, going to the conferences and talking with people and getting all of that insight, and then being able to kind of share that with everybody through the thought leadership, just to kind of look, you're putting out a fire right now. Well, guess what? a dozen other organizations have dealt with that as well. This is how they deal with it. And so being able to share that information with everybody through social media, through conferences, through podcasts like this, is always important for us and is one of the key aspects when it comes to dealing with thought leadership.
Well, I love that. And, you mentioned a lot in that answer that, one of the things that I pulled from it was, we talk about sharing perspective, sharing the
Mhm.
experiences, taking these other, cases and incidents that are shared with you and, giving this knowledge kind of to help people in a way, kind of not repeat the, mistakes of our past. And it reminds me of a very famous quote from Isaac Newton, who was a brilliant genius, of course, in his own
Mhm.
right. But he was quoted once as saying, "If I have seen further, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants,"
Right.
meaning all of
Yep.
the cybersecurity professionals, all the experience, and all these
Yep.
businesses that kind of has aggregated through your, events and interactions with them, and now they flow through you to reap
Yep.
benefit your students and businesses. And
Exactly.
I kind of wanted to wait till the end, but since we're talking about geniuses, I have to bring up one of the partners or in KnowBe4 that unfortunately passed away really too soon last summer in
Yep.
2023, Kevin
Yeah.
Mitnick, who was a juggernaut, a champion of cybersecurity. He was gone too soon. I can't really
Mhm.
say enough. We lost a major champion of cyber there. Do you happen to, since he was a partner in the business, did you happen to have any Kevin Mitnick stories, fun or humorous, something to just kind of keep the spirit of him still with us? Do you have a story you could share with us?
Sure. Um, when I joined KnowBe4, was in 2019. It was in the fall of 2019, and I had had the pleasure of meeting Kevin at his birthday party in Vegas because his birthday is at the beginning of August, right before what we affectionately call Hacker Summer Camp, where we have Black Hat, DEF CON, B-Sides Las Vegas, Diana Initiative, all these different conferences going on that first week of August. And that was when Kevin's birthday was, and I was in Vegas, and I had gotten I was already friends with some of the folks at before I got hired. And Kevin was at his birthday party, and they were like, "You want to meet Kevin?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I want to meet Kevin," because I had already read Ghost in the Wire. I read it several
Mhm.
years ago, even before I came to KnowBe4. I knew of Kevin Mitnick, and it was funny because one of the my bosses that I had in a previous organization I worked at uh, didn't have a lot of respect for Kevin because of the felony and the crimes and jail time and everything else. But I don't think they really truly appreciated who Kevin was. And I remember reading his book, and I'm like, one of these days, love to meet this person, just kind of shake his hand, going, "Wow, you kind of had a rough go at it." And at his birthday party, I had the pleasure of meeting with him. Didn't really get a lot of good time to chat with him because it was a big party and lots of people were
Yes.
there. But getting to meet him, and I said, "Hey, can I get a picture with you?" And he goes, "Oh, of course, sure, come here." He puts his arm around me, and I still have the picture on my phone, and it's still one of my favorite pictures with Kevin. I only had a couple of other interactions after that time because, unfortunately, in March of 2020, about 6 months after I started, COVID hit, and everything shut down. And Kevin ended up going over to Australia for during COVID. Was there for a year or two, I think. But once he came back, we had a lot of changes at KnowBe4, and I had heard about his illness. But I did have one other run in with him shortly after I'd been hired, and I got to see him in the office, and I told him that remember meeting him back in August because I know what it's like to meet dozens, hundreds of people a day. You don't remember everybody. But he told me he remembered me, and I was appreciative of that. And I said, "Now I'm a part of the KnowBe4 family." And he goes, "Well, you're in a good spot." So, one other conversation that I like to share with people is the one that surrounds what he does when he gets access to somebody's computer. What's the first thing he does?
Okay.
And shared the story of he hits the browser, using Cobalt Strike, hits the browser and downloads all the information. So, looking at browser histories, I'm sure, but a lot of it also would be is, snagging the passwords that are saved in those browsers. A lot of people don't realize The browser is used for surfing the internet. It's not a password manager. I know it can be used for one, and don't come at me for it, but personally, I use a password manager because that's its job. Using the browser as my password manager, no, you're to take me on the internet superhighway and let me go browse pages and show me that information. I don't need you saving the passwords. There's a matter of convenience that goes with it, but for me, that convenience is too close to, in the event of hearing about Kevin's story of first thing I hit if I get into a browser is I dump the history, I dump the passwords. So for me, it's like, yep, nope, not going to be using browsers for password managers. So that was a kind of a fun insight into, who Kevin was. Very outgoing, very friendly with the folks, and he will be sorely missed.
Definitely gone too soon. I had the pleasure of speaking at a conference here in the Middle East, and during one of my presentations, I was doing an example of breaking into like a Google data center. And
Yeah.
during the process, I was talking about RFID technology and how there was a video of Kevin showing how easy it was
Mm-hmm.
with some
Yep.
card readers to duplicate a card, so similar to
Yep.
hotel rooms, and it had been demonstrated, I believe, on Mr. Robot as well. And so
Right.
he was just, a juggernaut of information. And again, gone too soon. We could talk for hours about Kevin, but thank you for sharing those stories
Sure.
about Mr. Mitnick. I do want to go back to you. So, on your profile on LinkedIn, you mentioned that you're an avid chess player. So, can you maybe share a little bit about what got you into the game of chess,
Oh,
and what are
wow.
some of your favorite maybe chess players in the world?
Sure.
Any kind of content around that?
So my dad taught me how to play chess, I think, before I was 10. Um, I'm not very good by any stretch of the imagination. I like to have fun. I have a I like to call what I like to call it I have a love-hate relationship with chess. There are days where I love playing, and then there are weeks where I hate playing. Um, I love to play the blitz games, the 5-minute games
Hmm.
where you're constantly moving. It's a very quick pace game, and I go through peaks and valleys. I go through times where I'm up there, over 1,000 on my elo rating, which is the chess ratings. um, on average, I'm sitting around between 900 and 1,000. I've gotten up to 1,100 at one point. It was really cool, and then I ended up dropping all the way down to 800. But I'm playing, anywhere from a dozen to 2 dozen games a day of the 5-minute games. Yeah, usually it's early in the morning, late at night. I like to play. It's just kind of my way, and it's weird because I can go on a really great winning streak, and it's like, woo, this is great. All right. And then I hit a slump and I'm constantly losing, and it's extremely frustrating.
Are you playing
And
against computer opponents or human
no,
opponents?
people playing against
People.
people. I don't
So
like playing against computers because some of the moves they make are just, aren't human like. It's kind of the AI aspect of it. Um, but then again, I'm not playing 2,000 elo or 2,500 elo. I'm playing 800, 1,200, and they make these really weird, bizarre moves from time to time. Um, but I like to play against people and people from all around the world. I, I'd have to look at my stats, but I think I've played chess against at least one person from like 60 countries in the world so far. And I've been playing on chess.com since 2008. I think I meant to look it up
wow.
before the event today, the chat today. But yeah, I play on chess.com. And it's like I said, there are good days and there are bad days. I'll play classic chess, 3-day game, a 3-day game where you've got 3 days to make a move.
Mhm.
That for me gets a little too slow, but I like to play in person as well. I played at the DEF CON chess tournament last year. Didn't do as well as I wanted, but oh well, is what it is.
Yeah.
But a lot of the help that I get from my chess game comes from some of the popular chess players. Levi Rosman, How to Win
Okay.
at Chess. I haven't cracked the book yet. Well, actually, I'm on page 28, but I need to go back through this on the days that I get frustrated playing. But Levi, who is known as Gotham Chess, he does a lot of YouTube videos. I like watching his stuff. And of course, when I start watching his games, I'm like, ooh, I want to go play. And I never finish watching the video because it's like I see what he's doing, then I go try it and it doesn't work. And then it gets like, ah.
I completely
So,
identify. When I was a younger kid, I couldn't stand to watch, basketball on TV. I'd want to go outside and play
you
myself.
want to go out and
And
play
this
it.
was
Yeah.
during like the
Yeah.
mid '90s when the Bulls were on their one of their treat
Right.
feeds, and Jordan
Yeah.
would be on every weekend. And I would
Yeah.
love to watch Jordan play, but I'd be like, I can't wait to go outside and play. And
And
then I
play.
see nowadays kids watch streamers play the game. They'll tune in on these live streams and watch replays of gameplay. And I'm thinking, but I'd rather play the game.
Yeah.
So I guess
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
something that's a different generation. They grew up being able to watch other people play. I
Right.
feel like I got to be part of the action. So who's your favorite chess player in the world?
I can't say I have a favorite, but I would love to meet Levi Gotham
Okay.
Chess. I would love to meet him and, have him sit and watch me play a couple games and give me some tips. But you got Marcus that's out there, your champion. But I don't follow the players per se. I like watching Gotham Chess on YouTube, watching his tips and tricks. And I like watching games live, but then I get antsy because I'm looking at them making moves. I'm like, no. You can't
Yeah.
say anything. It's rude. But it's a fun game. Like I said, I got a love-hate relationship with it, but it's something, like I said, my dad taught me, and it's been with me for a majority of my life. So I kind of went through a dry spell for a number of years, and I got back into it about 5 years ago, especially during COVID, and was playing a lot more. So
Okay.
yeah,
Well, you mentioned your dad got you in the chess, so that's going to bring
yeah.
me right into the next topic of mine. Your profile mentioned you're a connoisseur of dad jokes. So you got a couple dad jokes even if they're IT cyber related or not, you got a couple dad
Yeah.
jokes you can lay on us right now. Hate to put you on the
Well,
spot, but what you
yeah,
got?
no, that's fine. That's fine. No, I even have a YouTube channel where I've got a bunch of my dad jokes out there, and I need to add some new ones in there. It's been a while since I've been able to put them in there. One of my personal particular favorites when it comes to dad jokes actually has to deal with air conditioners, because I don't know if a lot of people really truly understand what a air conditioner and a computer have in common.
What do they
That
have in
would be the
common?
fact that they're both useless when you open Windows.
Uh,
Yeah.
all
Now,
right.
yeah, I know that, Jim and I know myself, we like to consider ourselves, being very secure people. And I know in this industry, we're trying to get more people, more women, more STEM, encouraging more of STEM folks that are out there. But I'm really curious, Jim, do you know what the name of the most secure woman in the world is?
I do not.
Yeah, that would be Emma Faye. Yeah.
Good
So
one.
I always love the good tech jokes, but I don't know if you know, but a SQL statement walked into a bar one day. Yeah, he
Uh-huh.
walked up to two tables and said, "May I join you?"
For your SQL DBAs out there, you'll definitely like that one.
Yep. Yep. And finally, we already talked about password managers, but do you know why you can't use the word beef stew as a password?
No.
It's not stroganoff.
I like it.
So
That's strong.
I will leave you with those, but just remember that I do keep all of my dad jokes in my database.
Good one.
Thanks.
Good closer. I love it. So, man, so there's so much we could dig into, and yeah, I still reeling from those series of dad jokes. As a professor educator, to get back into
Yep.
your career, what are some of the challenges you face? Because like for me, I mentor about 7 to 10 people a year personally.
Very cool.
And of course, through
Very cool.
Top Cyber Pro, we've reached over 100,000 people certified globally. What are some of the challenges you find as an educator? Because for me, just to kind of share a little bit of what I had to challenge with is when like, let's say I'm in the Middle East, I'm talking to people where English may not have been their first language, but they
Right.
can speak it and
Mm.
understand English. Sometimes it's about finding like knowing your audience is always key,
Mm.
but finding the topic that they're very familiar with. So I was teaching a CISP class pro bono here in Kuwait one week, and I had a lot of young Kuwaitis in their 20s to mid 20s. And by the second hour of this night class, I could tell they were checked out. They were slowly getting into their phones, trying to hide and conceal that they were on their phones. and I knew I was losing them, and I was starting with the weaker domains at the beginning of the week, which was like physical security, access control stuff. So I started talking about cars, and I said, let's talk about what's the important aspects of a car, like the tires, from a confidentiality, integrity, availability perspective. What are the
Yep.
tires? And it was integrity; they got to be reliable and trustworthy. And we went and labeled all the components of a car. Talked about features versus functions. So I was doing a little bit of coding instruction. So I was able through talking about, and they all love vehicles and cars, that I was able to connect to them and get their attention back and to
Right.
correlate a subject they really love and then teach them, some cybersecurity principles with that. And that works really well for me, is finding ways to correlate the information to where it's easy to digest, easy to wrap your head around. But what are
Right.
some of the challenges you face as a professor and educator yourself?
Well, you certainly hit it on the head. Is you don't want to lose your audience, and you have to know your audience. Um, for me, a lot of my the education that I deliver is done online. I do my lectures remotely because of the travel that I do. It's not as easy for me to be in the classroom, and so for the last couple of years since COVID, I've been teaching online, and it's for me with the classroom, it is something that does get lost. The students are connecting and they don't have the cameras on. I would have one or two that might put it on because they want to show that they're interested. So for me, then that's okay. Well, then, all right, let's try to connect with them. If you can always, change the mind of one or help one student, then, you've been successful. And so, a lot of the communication gets done through email. A lot of the communication gets done, if they're going to drop in questions through our different the class portal that we have that's set up, and so that becomes the communication. But also, I try to bring a little more real world aspects into it. So the course that I've been teaching at the college is, deals with Windows security, Linux security, and networking, and looking at Wireshark and those kind of things. Well, one of the things that I do is I throw in, because I do it all the time, different presentations that I have through that I do through KnowBe4. So whether looking at ransomware, or we're talking about phishing, or we're talking about browser security, and I'll bring those presentations. It may not be part of the core curriculum, but I will weave that into the course so that I can give them a little extra information, real world information, not just what the assignments are in the textbook and the electronic textbook, but give them real world scenarios or real world situations and what's going on and how we dealt with it. The ransomware one is always a lot of fun because I actually go through and encrypt a virtual machine with ransomware. Been able to collect samples and had those, and I launched the attack on it, and they got to see, how quickly the machine becomes infected by ransomware once it launches onto the system. And it's a 40 gig machine, and
Mhm.
it does it in less than 10 seconds, and the whole thing's done in less than a minute. And they get to see that, and that for them is just like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize it happened that quick. So it kind of adds a little more real world aspects to it that they may not get. The end of the semester, I do a whole thing on the outro to InfoSec, and it's, tips and tricks to help them in the real world when they graduate. What podcasts to listen to, what groups, what conferences to attend, the importance of networking, looking at, going to the different conferences, smaller conferences, the big conferences, getting involved with local meetup groups. And a variety of, and then other books and things that are helpful for them to read uh, as they carry on with their education and, entry into the real world.
You bring up a good point about, training, folks to get them into this new career in this industry. And what I find is, there, for me, I have a lot of people refer to me. So someone will say, "Oh, this guy helped me in my career." Reach out to
Mhm.
him, and I'll get people saying, "Hey, so and so gave me your email, your number. Can you help me out?" And for years, I would, put a lot of time and effort into, giving people a deluge of information. But then I would not have a lot of people following through in the initiative. So then I
Okay.
set up myself in the past 2 years. I'll say, "Hey, like IC Square has this certified in cybersecurity, which is
Mhm.
free training, free
Yep.
certification, brilliant campaign, the 1 million certified in cybersecurity. I love what they're doing with that. So what I'll do is say, hey, IC Square's got this. It's very foundational. It won't
Yep.
get you a job because they're still trying to get that brand recognition for the cert and probably get it accepted by employers. But hey, it's going to be free training. So all it costs is your time. And then you get the certification and then come back to me for step two. And that right there is kind of the easy softball pitch I can give them so that if
Mhm.
they're serious about it and they complete it, they'll come back to me for the next steps and then I'll continue working with them. So we're building up that relationship for me to continue putting my time and energy.
Right.
But that's sometimes you come on, like you mentioned, some kids got the cameras turned off. They might not be fully engaged. And even the ones that
Right.
have the cameras turned on, it could all just be for show, kissing up to the
Sure.
professor, if you will. But you mentioned the most powerful statement I think I heard and I recall is you saying, if you just reach one, that's what it's about. And I
Yeah.
would tell myself that with any project, any endeavor I put my time, effort, and any energy into, if I can motivate one student, if I can motivate one adult or help one adult, it's not always about the students. It could be someone that's mid-career that says, you know what, I've been,
Oh
doing
yeah.
nursing, I've been doing this dead-end job. I hear cybersecurity's got all these openings, and I'm gonna, try to make a change. I'm in my mid-30s, my mid-40s, even my mid-50s. I've had people from all walks of life come to me, and I love that our industry is welcoming. It is like you mentioned earlier that they don't have to just spend the money because it's cash at the door when you go to DEF CON or all the high prices of like Black Hat and all these, very expensive fly to Vegas conferences. They could go into their local communities. There's
Yeah.
there's so many groups out there. And even if it's just virtual online, what's great about the cyber and IT community is everybody's helpful. You do have a
Hmm.
few people that believe knowledge is power, but
Yeah.
there's more of us out there that believe knowledge is empowering. And I love that about the industry. I love that
Yep.
you could go to any event and network so easily because we've all been there at every stage, right? And we know where these young folks are coming from. We know where the mid-career people are coming from.
Yep.
We've been there, done that. And being able to share and give information, help people with some, point them in the right direction and give them that guidance. So with that in mind, there's a lot of people watching this thinking, I can never be a Jim West, I can never be a Mr. McQuiggan. How, what would be step one? Like if I'm taking like 99 steps to get to where these guys on the screen are, what would be some of the first steps that you would recommend? Whether it's a certification, like first one, two certifications to prepare for, is there certain websites you would recommend? I always tell people YouTube University because everything's on YouTube. But what are some resources that you would recommend that only cost people their time to type in the
Right.
URL or a cert they could search for?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say don't be a Jim West, don't be a James McQuiggan, be a you. Be who you are. Because you could be the next whoever.
Be bigger than
So
us.
and bigger, and I want you to be bigger than us. Because then you can hire me, no,
Yeah.
anyway. No, I'm not looking, just everybody knows. Yeah, when it comes to resources, networking is key. Constantly learning every day. That's what this job is. We're always learning. You can't just rest on, what you learned, took your cert, and away you go. We're constantly, everything's changing, especially in AI. There's so much changing. Now, I'm going to share some of the resources that I've used. So, cover up the KnowBe4, but me personally on a regular basis. There is a daily podcast that comes out at 8 a.m. Eastern time in the US, called the Daily Simply Cyber Daily Cyber Threat Briefing. It's hosted by a good friend of mine, Dr. Gerald Auger, who I met at DEF CON almost 2 years ago. And we just kind of hit it off real quick and end up hanging out. And he plays chess. And so we always had a lot of fun playing chess. But every day for an hour plus, what he does is he takes the top cyber stories of the day and provides his feedback, risk mitigation, governance, risk compliance, what you need to be doing, no matter where you are, begin, entry level, mid, management, what you need to be doing, what you need to be looking at. And his show is something I watch pretty well almost every day. Disclaimer, on Fridays, I give him the dad joke of the week because every day there's a little snippet that he does. And on Fridays, it's dad jokes. And so I give him the dad jokes. So it's my dad jokes that I give him that are in the show. But from there, the Black Hills Information Security has their anti-siphon training, and it's pay what you can. If you're not working and you're looking to break in the industry, you don't have to pay for it. And they have tons of different training. On the Simply Cyber site, YouTube channel. Jerry's got a whole slew of variety of different videos that you can watch, again, just providing your time. Udemy I know has a lot of good training material that's out there. Just what you said, Jim, with regards to YouTube University. There's tons of material out there. It just takes your time to be able to watch it, assimilate it, apply it to your organization, what you're doing. Now, for me, when people come to me and go, hey, I want to get into cybersecurity, what should I do? It's like, well, that's kind of a big step. First of all, we need to figure out, what is it you want to do? Do you want to be a pen tester? Do you want to work on red team? Do you want to be blue team? Do you want to be purple team? Do you want to do security awareness training? Do you want to identity access management? Do you want to do threat intelligence? You need to figure out what it is you want to do. So that's the number one question. And that's the hardest one to figure out. For me, it took me 9 years to really discover where my passion was, because I started out doing IT security, VPNs, networking, configuring firewalls and switches and routers, and building VPN connections. And that was a lot of fun. And then I got into our corporate security office, and I got involved doing compliance. And then I got involved with our security champions program, ambassador program that we had. And I was working with all different people throughout our business, because they were our eyes and ears throughout the organization. And I realized how much fun I had doing the security awareness, doing the assessments, communicating, educating. So 2016 is where I realized that I had my passion. And how I realized that was, I ended up leaving that department to go work in another department. And when I left that group, I realized how much I missed it. And within the first week, I'm like, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have left. But, decisions were made, contracts were signed. So be it. So it took me another 3 years. And after that 3 years, that's when the KnowBe4 job came along, and that's when I pounced on it. And so again, now I'm in what I'm doing, where my passion is. I love to educate, I love to talk to people about cybersecurity, help people. I want to help people make smarter security decisions every day. And
I
so
love that.
so for me, for people that are listening, it's important that you figure out what it is you like to do, you love to do. What's that passion? What is it that's getting you up in the morning? Because I know, working as a SOC analyst, as a level 1 or level 2, it's grueling, it's inundating, it's tough work. But if you're looking towards, working your way up to be a CISO, or working your way up to be a pen tester, or whatever, figuring out what that is, sometimes you got to try everything. I know when I built my first computer way back in the late 90s, that, I wanted to do anything and everything I could with a computer. I was doing video editing. I was building web pages. I was building the computers. I was doing voice over IP with my computer. Anything I could do with my computer, I was doing. I wanted to figure out all the aspects of it. And the same thing with getting into cyber. It's like, learning how to do incident response, learning how to do product IT security, learning security awareness, trying all those different aspects, and then discovering what it was and go, okay, this is what I want to do. And then following that path.
So when you mention, when people say, I want to be in cyber, and they ask you, give me the roadmap, give me the way ahead. And a lot of people will say, I wish I could do cyber. So the other side of that is, but when people are not asking me, they hear I'm in cyber, they're like, oh, I wish I could do cyber. I just don't have the mind for it, or I'm not that smart with technology. And I tell people, this is what I tell them. I say, can you read and can you comprehend? If you can read and comprehend, you could do cybersecurity. And then the next steps is, like you said, finding the things that you like to do, the types of work, and the routines. And because our jobs do become somewhat of a routine. We have usually the things that we do every day, every week, every month. And, reports, writing, emails, conferences, phone calls, etc. Most jobs have a lot of common ground, and a lot of people, they get surprised by that, because I think that it's like the movies. We're like doing this on the keyboard all day, and there's multiple screens floating around us. It's not as glamorous as Hollywood makes it. But going back to certifications, go ahead.
Yep. I was going to say, well, I got 3 monitors here in front of me and my teleprompter. So, and my lights up here. So sorry. Yeah, it's a little glamorous. And I know we're going to talk about certifications, but one of the things I want to just kind of bring to everybody's attention is, we hear in society that, we need 4 million people, or there's 4 million jobs, or 3 million jobs, or however, there's a large surplus of jobs. There's 0% unemployment in cybersecurity. One of the hurdles that we deal with in this industry, and I know, Jim, you're going to either agree or disagree with me when I say this, but there's not enough entry-level jobs out there for the people that are coming into the industry. There are too many organizations out there wanting the mid professional or the senior professional. They're not creating enough of those entry level because they want that unicorn, or they want somebody that's got, 10 years of experience, and a CISSP, and they're only going to pay them 50 grand a year. I'm being a bit facetious with that, but
Yes.
Their organizations are getting better. We're starting to see a little more, but there aren't as, when we say there's, 4.3 or 3.4, whatever the number is, million jobs out there. Yeah, but how many of them are entry level? And that's one of the problems that our industry is wrestling with, is we need to create, and this goes back to the organizations. We need to create more entry level jobs and internships, so that we can get these students, we can get these graduates, these entry level folks, people with a CC, we can bring them in and they understand risk and they understand a little bit of network security and so forth, that we can bring them in and then continue to educate them. And of course, the running argument is, yeah, great, they'll be with us for 6 months and then go off elsewhere and do another job. But what if they don't? What do we need to do to keep them with our organization, and so forth? And that is a challenge, and I get it, and I respect that. I'm not in a hiring position, but part of me wishes I was, because I'd love to hire a bunch of people to come, do whatever that work is. But it is important. And that's why, I know we're going to talk about certifications, but that networking aspect, getting out there and meeting the people, connecting with people. For me, the last three jobs that I have gotten, which have been in the last 15 years, have all been through networking, have all been through people I knew and I knew of a job. And I said, hey, I'm going to apply. Oh, great, cool. I'll put in a good word. Boom. And I ended up getting the job. Referrals and knowing people goes a long way. Doesn't mean you're going to meet someone today and they're going to get you a job tomorrow. I met somebody 15 years ago and they helped me get that KnowBe4 job 9+ years later. So, it's not an immediate thing. We're playing the long game here. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon.
Yes.
And especially starting out, it does, you may have to take the crap job. I started out, I don't know if you did, Jim, but I started out working on a help desk, doing tech support for a large computer manufacturing on desktop computers. And then I moved to laptops. And then I worked my way up and became a manager, and that was fun. But working that help desk, it's a crap job. You don't have people call up and go, I really love my computer, I just want to let you know. Like, no, they call up on the phone going, this POS that I've got here, this, computer, it doesn't work. I want a brand new one. And then you explain to them, it's like, no, we can give you a refurbished one. That's right. Yeah. So they don't call up to tell you how wonderful the computer is. They call up to complain, and yell at you. And so, you got to do the crap jobs sometimes,
Well,
you work your
there's
way
a lot
through.
of value in that too, because I got my start with CompUSA as a service technician doing bench technician work, where I was repairing desktops, laptops. I eventually
Yep.
moved up into corporate warranty tech support, working on servers and so forth and networks. But when you deal with customers, even at that level, it's like being a waiter at a restaurant. You have to
Yeah.
deal with all sorts of levels of humanity and people, and it teaches you empathy, it teaches you patience,
Yep.
it teaches you a lot of soft skills that are important for your professional career. So I tell
Yep.
everybody there's value in every experience. You just got to be able
Mhm.
to have the perspective
To
of
look
what
for
it
it.
is, learn and grow and adapt and grow yourself to become the job, right? And so you mentioned something about, how a lot of people struggle with the whole there's not enough entry level jobs. And I
Right.
110% agree with you, which is why I'm in favor of a lot of these universities and colleges. Their cybersecurity degree programs will have connections with businesses to provide
Mhm.
access paid internships. The key is paid internships, because in
Yeah.
today's world with inflation, rent, everybody's got bills to
Yep.
pay. And
Yeah.
asking someone to do a free internship, that's not going to happen. And so
Yeah.
we do need more of these, I believe, between paid internship programs and HR and leaders understanding that you're not going to get the cybersecurity rock star. Here's
Right.
just one of the pages of my resume. I have almost every certification on the planet. You're not going to get a Jim West for $50,000. You're not going to get a Jim West
Yeah.
for $150,000 or
Right.
$200,000. And then there's the other side of the spectrum. For people watching this going, well, I just got one, maybe two certs. Don't be disheartened. I have 2 pages of certifications. I have 32 years of experience. So there's the other side of the spectrum where there's not enough CISO, and there are CISO and CSO positions all around the world. But the
Yep.
problem is they're already filled. So for someone like me, I have to wait for someone to retire, and like you said, the networking aspect, who I've networked with that already knows, hey, this guy's retiring, Jim West is our guy. And there's so many silos, even within cyber, within the respective industry that the cyber team is working in. Let's say it's working in fintech or working in medical research and development, pharmaceuticals. They want you to have experience in that industry, not just
That
that you have
business. Yep.
cybersecurity experience. We want you to have the specialized experience on these specialized tools and systems.
Yep.
And so it does, when you start moving up that ladder, it starts to get really siloed, even within cybersecurity in respect to the multiple industries we cover. But you're
Right.
right. There's not enough entry level. And if anyone that's in a C-suite watching this right now, or an HR director watching this, I would implore you to do 2 things immediately. One is in your job descriptions, when you're saying you need someone with 10 years experience and these 3 certifications and a bachelor's or a master's degree, don't do a and. You're limiting your hiring pool to, like
Yep.
I said, to the unicorn. Do the or statement. Remember, we used to do the Boolean, words like and, or,
Yep.
this, that, nor. Do the or. Have made this many years experience, or these certs, or this degree, or any combination thereof. That way, it creates flexibility to open up your candidate pool to give you more options of who to hire for, and be willing to be flexible enough to take a chance on someone that might not be as mid-career or senior as you like. Take someone that's maybe a little junior that you can train up and grow in your
Right.
business, because you taking a chance on them will, they'll hopefully implore or instill some loyalty from them to stay with your organization because you gave them that shot. Sure,
Right.
will there be some people that will leave because they get another 5K, 8K raise jumping over to another company? That's going to happen in any industry you're in.
Industry.
People will
Yep.
always chase the paychecks. But there are a lot of people out there that just want to have the chance to prove themselves. And I
Hmm.
think that between HR departments who are writing up these job requirements and the stakeholders, the leadership that approves these job recs, need to really be more flexible and to create the possibility of, you're not going to get everybody senior level on a team and paying them what you want to pay. You need to grow your team. You need to, have a program where you're bringing in, paid internships, and then selected from those people that could be your entry level, and then grow them in your organization. And,
Yep.
I am a strong advocate of that. You actually, I think that's a very powerful statement. We don't have enough entry level, and we should. So.
Yep. I agree.
Before we get off the topic certifications, because obviously, certifications are really big within the industry. What would be a couple certifications? Let's say for the person looking at this, say, hey, what should be my first 1 or 2 certifications I should look at just to get my feet wet? And then the second part of the question is someone that's mid-career, that's kind of plateaued in their career, and they kind of want that cert to take them to the next level, whether it may be in management leadership role or maybe more technical role.
Yeah. For the folks that are starting out, one of the things, and you've touched upon it already, Jim, and I commend you for that, is the CC certification from ISC2. I've had my CISSP since 2008, and it was my director of corporate security and our product security officer that back in 2007 said, hey, you should go get your CISSP. And at
Was
that
that back
point,
when it was Scantron? You had to fill in the Scantron?
250
150 questions,
questions,
6
bubble
hours.
sheet, 6 hours, and I failed it the first time, missing it by 6 points. And that was
Wow.
in the day where they emailed you 6 weeks after you finished the
Oh,
exam.
yeah.
And I remember getting that email and just my heart sinking, just and I'd done one of those boot camps, and they had the guarantee, oh, we guarantee you pass. I'm like, well, cool, good. I didn't. What do I need to do? So I ended up going back and finding the instructor that I had, because her name was Gwen Betwee, and we're still friends to the day. And
Oh, I'm familiar with Gwen.
Gwen, I love Gwen.
Yeah, she's
Um,
wonderful.
she was my instructor that I had in 2008. And like I said, I missed it. And so I immediately called up the boot camp company. I said, where's Gwen teaching next? Oh, up in Atlanta. Sign me up for that. All I had to do is pay for the hotel. So I go back and I walk into the class, and she already knew that I'd missed it. And the cool thing is by like the middle of the week, I found myself helping the other students, educating them. And
You see,
and the
you
funny thing
already knew
was,
your
is
calling back
yeah,
then.
yeah, didn't realize it, but yeah. And I remember sitting for the exam again. And the first time I took it, I took the full 6 hours. I was checking answers, I was making sure I got it and worked through it and everything. And this time I sat down, and the number one tip in test taking, folks may realize, and you do, Jim, especially taking all those certs, is you get the question, you read the question, you read the answers, you read the question again, and then you pick your answer. If you can't find out which answer, don't guess, just move on to the next one. And I got that first question, and I'm like, I don't like any of these. All right, let me move on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. I got to question, I think 11 or 12 before I finally answered. I got an answer that I wanted. I knew the answer I wanted, but I wasn't getting it on as the responses, because it's so applicable. You're applying the information, not answering. And I got through the exam done in about 5.5 hours, and I'd answered all the questions. And I was so frustrated because I felt like I failed it. The first time I took it, I felt like I passed it. I was like, oh, I got this, no problem. And this time I'm like, I can't believe I didn't like the answers that I was picking. I picked the best one, and I felt like I failed it again. And I left, and I was angry, and I got back home, and 6 weeks later, and I got the email, and there it was. Congratulations. And I was only one of like 3 people in the organization at the time that had their CISSP. So it was kind of a cool thing. But starting out with your CC, for me, the CompTIA certs are good. Again, it goes back to, what are you interested in? Are you liking the network aspect? Are you wanting threat intelligence? The security plus, the CC is good all around, and that's free pretty well. So go get the free cert. And then figure out, is there something in there that you like? If not, then maybe look at doing a security plus, or maybe a network plus, because you want to do pen testing. You've got the certified ethical hacker you can look at. You've got now you've got the AWS certs, the cloud certs. What is it you're going to be doing within your organization? Can your organization help you with getting your certifications or your degree or your master's? That's always a big thing as well, because that's also good for them, because they'll pay for your, let's say you go for your bachelor's, you then have to still stay there usually for like another year or so after you complete it. So for them, they know that, oh, we're going to keep Johnny around for another couple of years after they finish their degree. Cool, great, okay. And so, working towards having those certifications starting out. When you get to that mid-level, if you haven't got your CISSP, go get your CISSP. Again, inch deep, mile wide,
Right.
managerial, theoretical exam. I still have not forgotten those words, how Gwen explained it.
Mhm.
And so your CISSP is one. If you're looking long term, there are now we're starting to see certifications for technical people to work with board of directors. There's one from the Digital Directors Network. Called the QT, Qualified Technical Expert. There's some other, I know there's another group that's out there as well. The name is escaping me, but there are certifications you can get to help you serve on a board. So if you're in maybe senior management, you want to be looking down the line, looking down the river, where you can take your experience and bring it to a board level, because we all know how much fun, when you talk to a board, talking in their language, risk, impact to the business, brand, that kind of thing. There's a lot, it's a different language altogether. And so having the technical experience and being able to bring that goes further down the line as well. So yeah, if you're starting out, certainly look at your CC, figure out what it is that you want to do. Mid, your CISSP, and then further down, looking at board certs or some other leadership type certifications. I know who is it? EC Council has a CISO cert that's out there as well that you can go get if that's something to help you. The other thing is if you're trying to figure out what it is, sit down with your manager, sit down with another security person. If you go to these networking groups like ISSA or ISC2 or meetups or whatever, sit down with somebody, take somebody out for a coffee or a beer, or whatever it is, your drink of choice,
Mhm.
and pick their brain, and it could be something where it's like, once a month or whatever, you get together for coffee or whatever, and talk to them about what you're going, see what they're experiencing downriver. That goes a long way. Again, not only from a mentoring aspect, but also, again, building those networking connections within your own community.
So two things I'll add to that. Well, one, I just want to augment what you just said at the end. That anyone watching this is a very powerful thing about to say. Everyone throughout your career needs, I'm going to say plural, mentors. You may start off with the senior person in your company in cyber. You may start off with a colleague that's got a few more years experience than you, but mentors will take you to a certain level. Then they'll reach to where you feel their capacity for you to gain knowledge from them. Then you'll find another mentor and then another mentor along your career path. And so get a mentor, having a mentor, and there's so many people out there willing to share information and help people out along the way with guiding and giving you direction. So that's a very powerful thing you said there. Find a mentor. If you're blessed to get a great mentor, then it makes things easier. It's kind of like the shortcut to the system, right?
And you
And at
don't
the
need
same
just one,
time,
you can have a bunch.
you can have a bunch. And
Yep.
that mentor is also part of your network. And through them, you'll meet more people to grow your network. And then, like you said, you're working at one company one day, a few years later, that network, the people you've met have now say, hey, we got this opportunity that you may want to consider. And now you have your next move in your career because
Right.
of mentors and your network. The second
Exactly.
point I wanted to augment of what you said, and my brain is just drew a blank, but we was talking about the mentorship, but then here it is. For a lot of folks, what I advise them to do is, it's one part to find what you want to do, right? Whether you want to do pen testing, network analysis, firewalls. There's so many different avenues that you could approach in cyber. But for someone that's mid-career, maybe for the younger person that doesn't have a wife and kids and a family, younger people are a little bit more mobile, let's say, in the workforce, meaning if they needed to leave Florida to go to Georgia, to go to New York, to go somewhere, a young person can kind of pick up, pack up, and move. But for someone that's mid-career, we're speaking of people that probably got a couple of kids, they got
Right.
t-ball practices, piano lessons, school events,
Yep.
and their own life, their family, they got roots planted. So for
Mhm.
those folks, the only thing I would augment to what you said, everything you said was brilliant, but also for maybe more for mid-career, you should look into your area. What is in demand in your area? So if you're
Right.
going to take your career to the next level, go on LinkedIn Careers, go on any of the career sites, monster.com, Hot Jobs, etc., and start looking up the titles of where you want to take your career next to, whether it's like director of security, director of operations, etc. Find the titles, and then from that, you can start to look at the job postings of what the industry, those respective industries are looking for. What are the certifications, the year's experience, and the type of, whether you need a degree or not. So let's say most of the jobs you're finding at director level, let's say you didn't finish your bachelor's degree, that might be the push to get you to complete those last few
Yep.
hours, get your bachelor's degree so you're qualified. Or you'll start to see the certs that are very common. You look at all these director roles, let's say that, real popular combination I personally see a lot is CISP with a PMP. PMP is
Right.
project management professional. So you got two different bodies of knowledge, but they're very important at that director level. What you mentioned, he's speaking the language of leadership. And so if you get a CISP and a PMP, let's say you got your CISP, your mid-career with a CISP, you're just one more cert away, a PMP, and now you're qualified for those jobs that take you to the next level. So I always advocate for people that are kind of locked into a geographical area. Look at what the in-demand jobs are with the titles that you want to take your career to and become that job, because you just can't say, hey, I'm here, hire me. You have to check those requirements. So become the
Right.
requirements and then go after the jobs that are hot in your area, in your market. Um,
Yep.
so, James, we could talk for hours and hours, and I know
Oh,
your
I
time
know.
is very precious. So, I want to give you an opportunity, with your work that you do know before, with all the people you interact with, all the training sessions you give, both virtual and in person. I know you have just a wealth, a library of just great cyber tips for that would apply to anyone, everyone that could be watching this, whether they're a receptionist, the executive, CEO, to everybody in between. Even people that work in a construction site need to know a little bit about cybersecurity, right?
Yep.
Everybody's
Oh,
got
yeah.
mobile phones, everybody's got laptops, computers, we're all connected. So, what are some good cybersecurity tips that are for everyone that you could share with us?
So first and foremost, make sure we're using a password manager. Um, and I know that's not easy. And I know people are, it's that fine line again between convenience and security but the problem is we have, I can't remember what the number was, so I'll make one up. But on average, I would have to imagine on average, people have, I don't know, 173 different accounts, everything from airlines to social media to banking to any website you go to nowadays. It's like, here, create an account with us. And then they've got your name and email and address and all the other stuff. you want to be creating different unique passwords for every one of those sites. We are seeing way too many times where cyber criminals have stolen passwords and they're publicly available, where they'll just use those and gain access into people's accounts because they've used the same password over and over. Have a 16, a 20 character password that's completely randomized where you copy and paste it out of the password manager. Just have that peace of mind, because if a particular organization gets breached and your account information gets exposed, that password is now out there and is going to be available. Now you only have to change one account. But if it's a common one that you use or variation of that, they're going to be trying to hit that and you're just going to run into problems. So it's a habit. Habits aren't easy to change. Every December 31st, we're all sit there and go, I'm going to exercise more. I'm going to eat better. I'm not going to drink as much. And by the middle of January, you're sitting on the couch, eating chicken wings, drinking beer, watching football. So it takes, when we exercise, we're doing, 3-4 days a week. We're frequently going through and doing it. And that's the same thing that we got to do with a habit. That's what we got to do with a password manager. We want to start using that. The other fun tip I like to share with everybody is Google yourself. Go out to ChatGPT, go out to Google, Bing, whatever. Put your name in quotations, put your cell phone number in, put your address in. Have a look at what information's out there, because when a cyber criminal wants to launch an attack on you because they've come across your email address and password and going to try and see if they can breach your accounts, they're going to look up information about you. They want to try and socially engineer you. If they can find that, if you can go through and see what information's out there, then that that's readily available. So when they try to use it against you, that kind of helps you out a little bit there. And there are services out there that can work to remove your information off websites and those marketing sites and data brokerage sites. But definitely go out and Google yourself. See what kind of information is out there about you.
Great. Those are some great tips there, James. So if people want to connect with you, follow you, learn more about what you're working on and what's next for James, what can you share with us? What is the next thing, whether it's through KnowBe4 or through a personal endeavor or a side business of yours? How can people connect to you? And two,
Sure.
tell us a little bit about what's in your horizon, what's next for you.
So definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm out there, and I'm posting on a regular basis out there. Connect with me through LinkedIn. Let me know that you heard this podcast, and then I'll be quicker to accept. I'm very particular when it comes to LinkedIn requests. We've got to have mutual connections. I'm looking for at least a dozen plus mutual connections, 20. So that way you and I already have mutual connections and you're not just a one-off. So just put in the message, because if we've never been connected, we might have the common connection with you, Jim, but definitely do that. I'm on X, Twitter, whatever. But I don't post on there as much. I'm more active on LinkedIn than anything else. With the other fun thing is through our KnowBe4 site. One of the things that I do for KnowBe4 is I go to organizations and I do presentations. So if I don't do employee training, I do presentations. So if you want me to come out and you're going to talk to your IT folks or your security folks or whatever, we're going to talk about ransomware. We're going to talk about AI. One of the big things that I do right now is go to organizations talking about the dark side of AI. How are cyber criminals leveraging AI, generative AI, for their social engineering attacks? Working on a new one dealing with deepfakes. So I'm available to come do presentations, and that's available on our KnowBe4 website, where you can go through and request me as a speaker, kind of a thing. So planning this year's kind of, we're June already. I'm already planning for August for Hacker Cyber Summer Camp. I'll be at DEF CON. I'll be at Black Hat. I'll be at B-Sides Las Vegas. I'm not presenting at any of them. I'll just be in attendance. But also October is our busy month, because National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I'm on the road usually in October for most of the month, traveling around, going to different locations, different conferences, doing presentations. I've already got half my October filled up already. And then in November, I'll be heading off to Copenhagen for a conference out there.
Nice, Denmark. Wonderful.
Oh,
Well,
yeah, love it.
all the things that James has talked about, including the links and websites earlier about training resources, James will provide to me, and I'll make sure they're in the description below on this video. Also, all of the links for like his LinkedIn, etc., I will also put them in the description below. So, James, it's been phenomenal having you on. Thank you for sharing your experiences, your knowledge, your perspectives in cybersecurity. It's just been tremendous to have you on, and I know your time is
Thank you.
valuable. So again, thank you so much. Thank you for all the things you shared with us today, and just have a wonderful rest of your year. I know you got a lot of big events coming up, and anyone that's going to any of those events, try to find him in the crowd. So such a personable guy, wealth of knowledge right there between those two ears. He's got, and if you want to pick his brain about chess moves, he's your guy too for that. So again, James, thank you so much, and
Thanks, man.
thanks for joining us on the Top Cyber Pro podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you.